Andrew, you spoke about moves within European umbrella bodies regarding the merging together of online video and TV ad sales. What were you saying on that?
Well, it's just a trend that I've noticed myself that I came from disciplined media. Yeah. Which we sometimes refer to as traditional media. And I spent some time working in the online industries for 7 years with AOL, and both of those industries have fantastic strengths and weaknesses. We've always talked in online about comparability with television. The interesting thing is that, as I've noticed over the last few months, we've got two examples of joint industry committees, television joint industry committees, in Europe, to name but two. So we've got AGF in Germany, who are launching tenders, or completed tenders now, to capture both online and television video, VOD and near exposures. We've also got the same thing going on with Barb in the UK. So they are currently embarking on a tender with called Dovetail 2, which is effectively the hybridization of the player data for their broadcaster stakeholders and obviously their standard panel linear data. And it's interesting to look at how those TV players or TV constituents are beginning to move quite aggressively into a sort of catch-all for measuring across both medium. And I think, we talk about GRPs. I think GRPs are a first step, because if you go through the television measurement databases like Barb, you're not going to find auto intenders or style mavens. You're going to find demographics. So the first stage is for online, perhaps to think about measuring people, which is a shock horror for online, I know, but to measure with demographics. Now, in the very long term, you can see a progression where television begins to talk the language of online as well, as we begin to talk about programmatic reaching television and maybe behavioral targeting coming in. We see this with some of the Sky IQ data as well. So I think there's a hybrid model that's going to approach over time. But right now it's interesting to see how a lot of the TV chicks are moving into the online space.
Casper, you were nodding your head there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think right now TV is relatively simple in terms of its capability to target, and it's slightly painful to think that if we want to tap into TV dollars using online video, we have to actually dumb down the targeting capabilities of what we can do back down to very simple regions and maybe demographics, but measured on a GRP. So we would love to see the day where we can take an audience brief, which is of course where we start, and execute that in all the different channels in the same sophisticated way.
I just want to finish now with one further question back to OCR and its data sources. Is it fortuitous that you've now added a second source in Experian, augmenting Facebook, just as we find that Facebook supposedly is losing a great demographic swathe, which is younger people? Supposedly younger people are leaving Facebook in their droves for WhatsApp, Snapchat and others. How important is that in terms of the reliability of OCR, and what does it mean for that going forward?
Well, just to give you a sense of where we were just a couple of years back, if we were going to project off a sample for the US, we'd base it off a sample of 200,000. Okay, across 300 million people. That's a big projection. Today, we're basing that off 180 million people. So if we lose 50 million people, I think we could still stand that. The reality is that I have to say, from the last data file I've seen, there's been no noticeable decline in any of the data sets that we're drawing from Facebook. So I'm not sure I could comment on media stories that they're losing people in their droves. That's not something that I've personally seen.
Well, that's what Facebook itself reported.
Yeah, it's not something that we've seen in the actual data sets coming through on OCR. Sure. But you're absolutely right. OCR is designed for multiple data providers, and that's exactly where we're going. We have constant conversations going on with future data providers. It takes a year to get through our enumeration process, and that's one thing I will say. The one thing from my 7 years at AOL as head of Insight, I will say is that the online data is missing one thing. It's missing a bit of humility, because online data is not perfect. It can't be. Nothing's ever perfect. Television will be the first medium to say, yes, our data is imperfect, but we spend millions and millions of pounds on delivering transparency, robustness and representation. I don't quite see that in the online space right now. I see lots of hubris. Our data's perfect. It's better than everyone else's. But you know what? I know it's not, and I think we all secretly know it's not as well. And I think it would be good to have that debate.
Okay, good. Humility, not hubris. Thanks very much.